I survived 200 days as a Minecraft Bandit. The last 100 days I was the king. I was unstoppable. And now players want to end me and end this series. But this is what I say to those players. My story begins landing at the new base I've been working on. The base I lived in the previous 100 days I left behind. It wasn't safe no longer after the video going out. But as I was landing, I saw something I didn't want to see. My portable radar was giving me information that Soccer was near my base. Soccer is a dangerous guy. He's also a bandit and he has a group of people. Almost an army at this stage. Soccer and his gang had rose to the top spot and the top dogs in the server pretty fast. Because of one event. They managed to take out their rival competition fairly quick. And that was the corner obsidian base that I called the Hornet Nest that I didn't want to disturb. Soccer launched a surprise attack against the corner base. And it was successful. And there were no survivors. This gave Soccer and his gang the status as the most powerful players on the server. But now that you know Soccer and why I'm so scared right now, let's go back to the story. I knew Soccer had seen me. And ever since I declined to join him and his gang, they've been hunting me just like they've been hunting everyone else. They won't stop until the whole server is dead. But my base was found anyway. So I landed the plane and I rushed straight inside my base. I didn't have any armor on at this time because, to put it blankly, I was an idiot. I forgot to put it on. So I rushed into my base to cover my body with the protection that I need. I left my base fully geared with my sniper and my ACR. I knew Soccer would have seen me and he'll be back. But Soccer and his gang now were the new bandits on the server. But they weren't like me. They weren't lone wolves. And the server population because of them is dying. You don't see as many people around anymore as you used to. I believe the server is going through an extinction event. The only way to survive on the server now is to either join them or be killed or live deep underground, rarely coming up to visit. As night was falling, I spotted Soccer running from my plane. He was taking it. And I was happy for him to do so, if it would keep him away. I was a bandit. I didn't want to go to war. I just wanted to be rich. But Soccer wasn't going away. He was circling the area. And with that, I went under the tree so I wouldn't be spotted. I knew it was only a matter of time that I would get caught out here. So I wanted to make a dash back to the safety of my home. So I took the risky move to charge across the field. And I dived straight into my base. I blocked my entrance up with iron ore, and then I got ready to leave the base, just in case they do find me. It's better to be ready to go than not to be ready. I was getting prepared to leave before, just in case, but this time I was really getting prepared. I started grabbing supplies, as much as I could, but I knew I could only carry as much as I could take in my inventory. My main thing is I wanted steel, so that I could make new guns, ammunition, you name it. And I stored that in the briefcase, where I had Tomer's head and the armor he was wearing when he died. After this, I made the tactical decision to leave my base. If it gets found, I'm dead. And if it doesn't get found, well then that's fine. But it's time to leave. Because if the first option happens and it gets found and I'm inside it, there's gonna be no escape. Now I don't have to go out the front door. I always make an escape tunnel. Always. Which leads up to the highest peak around my base. I popped out of the mountain and instantly took cover. A new plane was landing. They were hunting me. They were shipping in supplies so that they could stay here for a while. It's almost like this was a siege. and they were waiting for me to come out for air. I slowly crawled around the mountain, hoping for a better angle. But with the rain pouring, I decided to leave and just pray that my base will survive the night. While traveling across the snowy mountain range, I decided I would head over to their base and pay them a little visit. Maybe they have no one home and their base is just left open for anyone to come and visit. There was a huge mountain range that looked over Soccer and his faction's base. By looking down, it seemed like no one was home. This was the first time coming close to the faction base. But with pure adrenaline, I started heading towards it. And instantly I could see a flaw with the base. And by using a certain mechanic, I would be able to break in. By lying down, I jumped in the side window. I don't think they thought this through. I was in the base, and it seemed like no one was home. And I also had just seen their code for the door. That'll come in handy in the future. I started having a look around, seeing what to loot. With the space inside my inventory being limited, I only wanted to take the good stuff. But as I was searching the chests, an unsuspecting guard came around the corner. He wasn't prepared, and I had better armor that suited, so I knew I'd win the fight, but it was a close one. I came down to 2.5 hearts. I'd just taken a player out from the bandit army, using the tactics that I learned from the previous series, of taking them out one by one. And that's the tactics I'm going to keep during this series. I noticed that I had got the cords wrong, and they were actually inside my base and had been for the last 20 minutes. So with this, I started rushing home. Even though I don't know what this would do, I just had to see it from my own eyes. I could see from the radar there were at least 3 players inside the base, if not more. My base had been found, and the cameras were gone, as I couldn't access them from the console panel. For the first time in this series, I'm being raided. All the work that myself and Thomas had worked towards, Thomas' sacrifice, all the loot we got from that faction base, gone. But it's not gone forever. It's just gone to them. Curiosity got the better of me, and I started getting closer to the base. And just as I was about to head in, my survival instincts kicked in. And I knew it's too late now to save the base, but I can save myself. And just as I was heading out, I saw a plane. Even though they were raiding my base, it wasn't enough. They wanted me. They wanted to kill me. I knew I would have to take these planes out of the sky, because they were feeding too much information to the foot soldiers on the ground. And I'd stolen something very, very good from their base. I placed down their AA gun on a nearby hilltop, and I aimed that sucker up, waiting for the plane to come back around. I almost dared it to, and it did, and I opened fire. Blowing the plane up and shooting the player right out of the sky. If that player was any higher, that drop could have been fatal for him, but he luckily survived. And now, that player is stranded and all alone, giving me an opportunity to take him out of the game before backup arrives. But they had another plane in the sky. These planes just don't stop coming. But it was too late. They were already grouped together and the plane in the sky had spotted me. And now I was being hunted. This was also another first. I had never been hunted like this before, and my heart was racing. The plane was following every move I made, flying overhead of me, dodging the trees, while the players on foot were now pushing into the forest and closing in fast. I knew if I had to escape, I had to do something drastic. So I went into the small valley and I started looping back around on myself. My idea was to go to a place where they would last expect me to be, and that would be at my raided base. I just had to get there without being seen. They wouldn't expect me to come back here, right? I jumped in and instantly I could see my base was absolutely stripped apart. I needed to cool down. My heart was racing and I didn't want to make a silly decision and die. So, I climbed up into the ceiling of my base and I just hid here for a while in hopes that things would go quiet, and I would calm down, and I would decide what the next course of action would be. But there's no rest when you're being hunted. Vex and Rengs had came back to the base. Were they looking for me, or were they grabbing more of my loot? I don't know, but my heart is still racing from the events that just happened. I could hear blocks being broke, and it was giving me anxiety. At this point, I knew my base was no longer safe, and never will be again, and I needed to go this time. And I waited for ages, until Vex and Rengs disappeared from the radar, but just as I jumped down, they reappeared again. And I jumped into the tunnel as they were just coming into the base. I blocked up the water below so they couldn't jump down. Well, if they did, they'd meet their fate and they would end their life. I quickly climbed up the ladder. I had managed to escape the base, and I headed off into the night. That was too close. And the next morning, I found myself a lovely sandy island. This is where I can get some needed respite, just beneath the sand. But during this process, I was having a chat with Tippy Tumbles, the co-leader, second in command to Soccer. She wanted to betray Soccer, and she had players in the faction that were loyal to her. I asked her to bring me Rengs, Vex, and Soccer's head. And then maybe we could have peace, and we could all get over this. Then I'll trust her. But she insisted that I meet her back at my raided base, and we take them out together. I didn't trust it, and I sniffed the trap. But just in case it wasn't a trap, I messaged Soccer, saying that Tippy is betraying you and wants to kill you. So that if this isn't a trap, I'm playing mind games with the enemies and destroying them from within. But I needed to stay focused. I was still at war, and I wouldn't stop until they are dead or I have took my last breath. Thanks to my portable radar, I now knew that Vex, Rengs, and Soccer were still at my base. Probably because I told Tippy that I would meet her at my base to take them out. But I took this opportunity to head to their base, to take out more of their guards. Straight away I noticed security was amped up since the last attack, and now there was a plane flying around patrolling. But I stayed under the water and stayed low. I could see two guards on the rooftop. One very well geared and the other not so much, and I knew that if I could take the right shot with my sniper, that iron guy would drop like a sack of potatoes. I just needed one shot to hit him. I needed to wait for the right opportunity. So I made myself a little sniper's nest, hidden from the sky, so the plane wouldn't spot me. And I patiently waited for the right moment. But from studying this iron player for a while, I knew he wasn't going to stay still. And it was only a matter of time before the gang arrived back at base as well. I just needed one shot to hit. Let's give this a try. And on the third shot, it hit him right in the head, taking him out of the game. The plane in the sky came in closer to take a look to see what's going on. But as long as that plane stays in the sky, it's not a threat to me. I could easily outrun it. But I broke into the base through the same defenses that they still have not fixed. And I was searching for that second player. I took him out as quick as I could, and this time I wanted to raid the base. But I had noticed that my portable radar had went quiet. Vex and the rest of the squad were on the way to come and get me. And with the base being an obsidian box, it's not a good idea to stay in there. Once they move in, you'll be trapped. And essentially it's an obsidian coffin. Returning back to my sandy island, the new place where I'd now call home, I didn't realize. But with the events that were taking place, the days had just ran away with me. And it was now day 234. I believe this is the quickest that time has ever went by for me. But it was just so action-packed. But it was now time to get started on my new base. And this time there were no more hiding. If I'm gonna go out of this world, I want to go out fighting. And the last 34 days had just taught me that. that I don't want my final days to be hiding in a base waiting for the enemy team to come. I'd rather hold down the fort and go down with the ship. I know that's what Thomas would have wanted as well. So I got to work, flattening out the island because this is going to turn into a small one-man fortress. I want to keep it tight and compact so that when I'm being attacked, I can hold down all angles without stretching myself too thin. Using the cobble that they left in my raided base, I started making the walls around the area. They weren't tall walls, but they should be enough to repel a small army. And it's almost like I was getting ready to say goodbye to this world, to this series, and take my last stand. But I wanted to go out fighting. That would be fun. And with my base now done, I wanted to go mining to get enough supplies so when it comes to my last stand, and they're at my front door knocking, I'll be able to give everything I've got to them. And when I returned from my mining trip, there was a gift left for me up in my base called Dear Ryan, and the book was left by Vex saying I need your help. Soccer's group was falling apart. Vex betrayed Soccer and was loyal to Tippy. The group was fractured, and Soccer killed Tippy, but Vex luckily escaped. And Tippy wants me to help him when just the other day he was hunting me down with them, and he was the one who raided my base. Vex is now alone. Now he knows what it's like to be me. Over the last few days I've had a stalker. He's been watching my base, and it's Vex. I know by the skin. He's not very discreet about it. It's almost like he wants me to see him and he expects that I'm going to be on his side and that I'm going to help him. He raided me. It's not gonna happen. I snuck out of my base to get a better shot and a better look, and I got behind him. He didn't even see me leave the base. I want to kill him, but he might have the stuff he raided from me tucked away inside his base, and I want it. So I got into position to get ready to shoot him. I knew this wasn't going to kill him, but that he would run and probably go and return home. It's now time to hunt him. I shot 3 times and I missed every single one. I was hoping to at least get 1 shot, but he was on the run, and now it was time to follow him. And I tracked him down to his nearby base. I knew it was somewhere around here, because in the book he had told me about a runway he had made inside a forest, and this was definitely some sort of runway. And after a while of waiting around the airfield, he came out. It looks to me like he came out of a cave just below me. He was now on the runway getting ready to take off, probably to attack my base. I didn't care at this point, but I wanted to find his base so I could raid my stuff. After carefully searching the cave, I found the entrance, concealed by granite. I was in the base, and I was optimistic my stuff could be here, or at least half of it. But as I started looking through the chests, I wasn't finding much, but the base went underground even more. This was definitely a new base, alright. When looking through the chests, I found a cage trap that probably came from my base, and instantly I had a plan. I was gonna place down the trap so that when he comes home, he'll be entrapped and he'll have to watch his base get raided right in front of his eyes, and there's nothing he can do about it. And then after, I'll kill him. But this plan sounded good on paper. But the problem was I was in the base for ages, waiting for him to return home, when eventually I heard the ladder creaking. Vex was returning home. He opened the door and instantly got entrapped. He was now my prisoner, but the trap hadn't worked as I thought it would, and it had left some spaces just in the middle. Vex could easily get out of this by crouching down. I just had to hope he didn't know how to do that. I insisted he hands over all his armor and weapons, and he did just so. His life is in my hands now, and he knows it. I then did my best to block up the spaces so he can't easily escape. I then began raiding. He wasn't overly rich, and I could sense that he didn't have a lot of my stuff. It was probably still with Soccer and the rest. I took what I wanted and I burnt the wrist right in front of him. I then had my moment to kill Vex, just like I wanted. But I decided for once to give mercy. And maybe now he'll learn his lesson not to mess with me, or anyone else for that fact. And I left his base, and I returned home. There's something I need to craft. Days went by, and I knew it was only a matter of time before Vex would tell Soccer where I am. And at Vex and a bunch of players would come, and I can finally have my last stand that I wanted. But to my surprise, Soccer showed up to my base, completely alone. Has his bandit empire fell apart, or is Soccer just feeling confident? I instantly fired at him, and he turned his boat around looking for cover. That's when I lost him in the swamp, but I knew he was out there somewhere. And as time passed, I started getting nervous, because maybe he's just waiting for backup to arrive. Maybe he's waiting for ranks. But if that's the case, that's not a problem. I have a plan, and I'm gonna stick to the plan. So I surrendered the base, and I got into position, burrowing into a little hole I made just in front of my base's entrance that goes deep underground. I waited, and that's when I heard an ender pearl land right in my base. I was no longer alone, and Soccer was here. As I heard the ladder slowly creaking, he was going right past me. He had fell right from my trap. I ascended to the surface as quick as I could, and I dropped the 3 deadly gas grenades that I had been working on, and I dropped them into the obsidian coffin below. It was a fake chest room, and there was nothing there but death. Grenades exploded, and quickly Soccer inhaled the gas into his lungs. There was nothing he could do but die. The bandit empire that Soccer had started was now over. But this base had been one big trap all along. This is not my real base. I've been hiding it from you. My real base is on this island right here, almost 200 blocks away. Do you really think I would make my base on the surface and just ask to get destroyed? I'm gonna survive for as long as I can. I'm not gonna build something for my last stand. I'm going to win. This was the base that I made the grass grenades in, and that I've been storing all the stuff that I've been getting since my loss of my last base. And it's also the place I put Thomas down to rest again, where hopefully he'll stay this time. And he won't need to be moved or disturbed. With Soccer now dead, and I'd already gotten revenge on Vex, and he doesn't seem to be coming anywhere near me, it's now time to hunt down the last remaining bandit of this squad. Because I might have just cut the head off the snake, but if I don't take them all out, another one will just grow in its place. It's time to hunt down the last and final player who raided my base, and that's Rangs. It's time to hunt again. No rest. I searched high and low for him, and I never end up hunting him. Why? Because he's hunting me, and I don't even know. Wars like this never end, and only the dead see the end to the war. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. It was an absolute struggle, and I feel like the odds were stacked against me, but I had a blast, and I would do it again.